I've got an amazing recipe for you today, Red Velvet Waffles. It's delicious red velvet that you just love already with an amazing cream cheese glaze. It is the best breakfast idea or perfect for brunch, perfect for any holiday, and especially if you want to impress your guests. But you're going to be shocked how actually simple it really is to make. So if you love waffles as much as me, you're going to want to stay tuned. Hi, I'm Carrie with eatingonadime.com, and we are on a mission to help families make amazing recipes that are budget friendly and don't take all day to make. And today's recipe is exactly that. You can find the full recipe linked in the description, or you can go to eatingonadime.com and just search Red Velvet Waffles. Let's go make some waffles. So for this recipe, we're going to start with the dry ingredients, and then we're going to mix up the wet ingredients and combine them. So first, we're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. When you are doing flour, like measuring flour, you're going to make sure you don't pack it in. You just do a quick scoop and then use like a knife if you don't have a leveler. Sometimes these measuring cups come with a leveler now, but take your knife across it, just like so, to get that flour nice and even. We need 1 more cup of this. I'm gonna have to see how I couldn't get it in 1 scoop, because you don't want to pack it in. Get it slightly over full and then slide it in. Slide it over. There we go. That's 2. Now, if you don't do that and you just scoop it heavily, your waffles will actually be really dense. Not very good. So that's the trick to make sure you have an accurate measurement. Then we need a 1/4 cup of sugar. Just regular white sugar works. And I'm not too picky on technically sugar, not brown sugar, but regular sugar. You should measure the same way, but it's just a matter of the sweetness that you're going to add. 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm loving my seasoning jars. I keep talking about them in all our videos. And then we need about 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Ooh, making a mess today. So this is the opposite. You want to actually pack in baking powder, and that's actually why baking powder has a little lip in there. You scoop it up and then you scrape it off to kind of get it packed in there. Done. So the things I've learned as I've been baking along, I love to just cook regular food and not baking, because it requires no actual measuring. You can just season it with your heart, but baking, you've really got to season it and do it well. So we're going to get this completely mixed together. So I highly recommend you use a whisk, and just like you can tell, mine's really old and well loved, and just whisk everything together. And then we're going to set this aside so we can do the wet ingredients. We're going to set this aside and start with our wet ingredients. The first thing I'm going to do is add 1/3 cup of butter that we have already melted and cooled. I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning, but what I like to do is melt the butter and set it aside while I'm getting these dry ingredients together, because you want your butter slightly cooled after you melt it, because when you add the eggs to it, you don't want it to start cooking those eggs. So you want it to be cooled closer to room temperature. We're going to add 1 3/4 cup of buttermilk. We purchased our buttermilk, but we do actually have a recipe on how to make buttermilk. It's very easy to do by using just regular milk. I'm going to get this whisked together so far. Then we're going to add 2 large eggs. Whoop. Don't worry, there's a sink over there. Making sure not to get those shells. If you have kids helping, I highly recommend that you crack the eggs in the bowl first. That way it's easier to get the shells out. Then we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I just have this 1/2 teaspoon here, so I'm going to do it 4 times. and a half a teaspoon of vinegar. And we're going to whisk this together. Then we're going to add some red, oh, that's not my red food coloring, some red food coloring. Now, red velvet is basically kind of like a chocolate mixed, and then you add the red coloring to make it red. I like to make sure everything is combined before I add the red food coloring. I prefer to use a gel coloring, and you're going to need to use more than what you're probably used to using to help get it that red, like red look. And it doesn't have to be completely red, but we're just going to keep adding and whisking it in until we like the color. And remember, it's going to get that darker color when we combine it with this chocolatey mix that we've already mixed up. I wasn't loving the red I was getting with this one, and so I busted out another. I just did like a McCormick red, which helped. That's just the seasoning. I personally love Wilton's brands when it comes to red because it just makes things more red. It's more vibrant, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But you know, you use what you have on hand, and it's okay to switch things up like we did. I was like, this is not getting, but this is like a nice, beautifully pinkish red, and that's how red velvet cake is. Okay, so now that this is together, we're going to combine them. A little sprinkle, sprinkle, and a little mix, mix. You could do like a hand mixer if you want to, but I just don't really think it's necessary. So I poured about half, mixed it together, and then pouring the other half. Just makes it easier when you're combining dry and a wet ingredients. You could do like a quarter and a quarter, but I don't got time for that. Now your waffle mix might be a little lumpy, and that's okay. You don't want to over mix it once you combine them together. So once it's combined, I'm going to switch from my, what's this called again? My whisk, I cannot think of the word, and switch to a spatula to make sure I'm getting all the edges, and then I'll be done. So this is already done whisking. So I'm going to use my spatula just to make sure it looks beautiful. Now we're going to let this sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. You could skip this step, but if you let it sit, that is what gives you the fluffiest waffles, and it makes it even lighter and tastier. We're ready! This has been resting, and I've already preheated the waffle iron. I'm using a Belgian waffle iron. I'll have the link below. It's not expensive. You don't need a fancy waffle iron. I do like a Belgian because when you flip it, it has the batter drain down, and that's what also helps make your waffles fluffier. If you use a regular waffle iron, you tend to have a more dense waffle, which is fine. I just like a good fluffy waffle. So once it's been preheated, and at the top of mine, you can pick how dark or light you want, and I always keep it about the medium size. We're going to do a little nonstick spray. I really like this measuring because it has a spout on it, but you can just use like a measuring cup to scoop it out. You want enough to slightly cover the edges without overflowing. So you just kind of spread it out. And then add the lid. And then since this is a Belgian, it's going to flip. And we're going to wait till this light comes on. Okay, it's ready. Dun, 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 dun. Ooh, ooh. I like to use a fork to just pop it out. As you can tell, it came out beautifully and clean. She's so pretty. The waffles are done. And then we're going to make our cream cheese glaze. Now, you don't have to do this, but why wouldn't you? It's going to be so good. So first we have 4 ounces of cream cheese. We need a half a cup of powdered sugar. A teaspoon of vanilla extract. And about a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. If you want to use regular milk, you can. Heavy whipping cream is just going to make it a lot more rich, but you can use what you have on hand. I'm just going to add a little bit and get it started. getting that whisked together. Now the reason I'm telling you to not add it all at once is because, like, what if you use a little bit less cream cheese and you don't want it to just be watery? So I always suggest when you're making a glaze or an icing to just add a little bit at a time. So that way you're getting the desired thickness that you want. Since this is more of a glaze, we do want it a little bit runnier than what you're probably used to on a cream cheese frosting. Okay, my glaze is done. It's a little thick, but that's kind of how I'm wanting it today. You can make it thinner if you want to just like drizzle it. You can do that as well. I'm just gonna kind of give me a dollop on top of these. Just to make them look really cute. But you can just serve it on the side so people can just do like a dollop on their waffle. But look how cute they are. And they're tasty too. Okay, I got my plate ready. I am dying to eat some. But first, let's talk about a couple things. Do you still serve it with syrup? I would. That way people might like it or not. You know, if I go to a coffee shop or to a brunch place and they serve me some kind of waffles that has a cream cheese glaze, they usually still serve it with a side of syrup. And if you're too lazy to make the cream cheese glaze, these will still taste amazing with syrup. Can you make these as pancakes? Yes, why not? I would use the exact same recipe and just throw it on a griddle to make your pancakes. So I'm gonna cut me a bite. You can get the full recipe linked in the description or go to eatingonadime.com. If you love waffles, go ahead and search waffles because we have an array of delicious waffles that you need to try. I hope this inspires you to make something delicious and still easy, especially on a lazy Sunday morning or a lazy Saturday morning if those still exist, and you can give this a try. Thanks so much for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of our family-friendly recipes. I will see you next time in my kitchen. Bye, friends.